Hey guys, it's Shannon. Welcome back to another 12 Days of Christmas project. If you're just now joining me for this series, I am creating holiday projects using Dollar Tree supplies from December 1st through December 12th. So if you're just now jumping in, check out the link that I'll have in the description box below where you can catch up on all the great holiday projects that I've created so far. You may have seen one of my previous videos where I created a buffalo plaid print using paint for a porch wood sign. So if you haven't seen that video, I will link that in the description box below as well, and you can check that out after this video. But this is sort of the same idea, just a completely different technique. We're going to be using some buffalo check wrapping paper from the Dollar Tree to create a similar wood sign. So let's get started. Alright, so I have my wood all prepped. I ended up cutting it down to 22 inches long, and then I used 80 grit sandpaper and my orbital sander to sand everything down so it would have a nice smooth finish. So I'm first going to stain it with this wood stain by Minwax in my very favorite color, Jock Bean, number 2750. Alright, so now that I have my wood sign prepped, I have cut it down, sanded it, and stained it and let it sit overnight. So it's good and ready to go. I'm going to be using some Mod Podge for this in the matte finish. Also a foam paintbrush and some scissors to get started. And all I'm going to do is cut down my wrapping paper to fit the size of the sign. Alright, so here's what I did. I ended up cutting my paper just a little bit smaller than the size of the wood sign so that there is a border around it so we can still see some of that wood showing through. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Mod Podge on the wood sign, then lay my wrapping paper on top of the Mod Podge and Mod Podge back over the top, and that will seal the paper to the wood sign. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to come back in with some sandpaper and rough up the edges. That way I get sort of a aged and weathered look, and then you'll see even more of the wood border around it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. So here is a look at it Mod Podged. And what I did is when I laid the paper down, I took my squeegee to get as much of the wrinkles and the air bubbles out that I could before I added the top layer of Mod Podge. And that'll help kind of give you more of a smooth finish once it's dry. So now I'm going to let this dry for about probably an hour. I want to make sure this is really, really dry before I come back in with my orbital sander and rough up the edges of the paper. If you don't have an electric sander, you can also use sandpaper, hand sandpaper, a sanding block, something like that works just as good. Electric sander will just make the process go a little bit faster. Here's a close-up look of the edges roughed up. You really want to be careful. Don't go too heavy when you're pushing down, and give it, you know, a couple passes so that you get the paper and you also get the wood. See here how it's kind of rubbed off, and you'll get that nice rustic look to it. So before I add my vinyl, I'm going to seal it with this Polycrylic. This is a matte finish, and I'm going to use my foam paintbrush. And what that's going to do is it's going to seal in these raw edges that are exposed now. And it's also going to seal in the paper so that when we transfer our vinyl onto the sign, it doesn't peel the paper back up off with it. So I'm just going to add 1 coat of the Polycrylic to the top of this and let it dry. And here's the sign completely dried. I ended up adding 2 coats of the Polycrylic just to make sure it was extra sealed in. And now I'm gonna apply my decal. I always get questions about this. I use a Silhouette Cameo. I do not use a Cricut. And I'll insert the fonts. So if you have a vinyl cutter, you can recreate this. But I'll insert the font names. I know this is Magnolia Sky, and then I'll insert which one this one is here. And I use Oracle number 651 white vinyl. And then the top transfer sheet is Duck brand contact paper that you can get from Walmart, just clear, and that's what I use for my transfer tape. And this design is 5 1/4 inches tall by 19 inches wide. So I'm just going to remove my vinyl decal with the transfer sheet and apply it to my sign. So here's a look at the sign. I did have a little trouble. Some of my wrapping paper decided it wanted to start pulling up, and it's not going to bother me. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to add a little bit more Mod Podge to this to fix it, but since this is a rustic look, it really isn't hurting the look of the sign at all. However, for you guys, I would suggest letting your sign, after you seal it, let it dry overnight and let that harden and cure, so that way it's a nice prepped surface for you to add this decal to. And that's what I would do next time, just to ensure I don't have this problem again. But for the most part, it did really, really good, and it transferred really well. If you don't have a vinyl cutter or a way to cut vinyl, then you can also use paint to do this. You could use a paint pen to do this. So there's other options. You don't necessarily have to have a vinyl machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix this right here, and then I have some sawtooth picture hangers to put on the back, and it'll be ready to go. Thank you all so much for joining me for another 12 days of Christmas projects. You can check out the description box below with a link to a playlist to catch up and see more great Dollar Tree DIYs. I hope that this tutorial inspired you. Make sure to give it a thumbs up for me. You can also share this with your friends and family and inspire them too. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I do DIY tutorials every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And currently for the 12 days of Christmas, you will get one every day from December 1st through December 12th. So don't forget to hit that bell so that you get notified when my videos go live. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.